Alright, so moving on to hashtag 002. We're going to be looking at pages 25, 27, 28, 30, 31, 33, 34, and 35 is listed on the Guitar Online Google Classroom. So last week we discussed how to play the modified chords, and we're going to add two more modified chords before we start learning on each string. And I think what they just telling you how to do through these chords, how to place your finger, and of course how to teach some rhythm. As we learn each string, we're going to add those chords with the notes as a combination. So I think it's important to know the modified chords before you start learning the notes on it, the first position. So anyway, let's go on. So just making your recording. So basically, if you're just tuning in, I'm just showing you what I would like for you to do when you do make the recording, how I want you to play it. And of course, this is my way, if you're at home and we don't have class, I can this is the way I'll just kind of explain how to play the guitar and how I want you to do it for the class. Okay? So starting on page 25, hopefully you're already there. It's the 3-string G chord. So we learned C last week, and then we learned the G7. So you notice C and G7 are right next to each other. Alright, so now looking at the G chord, it says to put a third finger. Okay, we also discussed what the numbers of the fingers are last week. So put your third finger on the 3rd fret. Okay, remember this is 1st fret, 2nd fret, 3rd fret, 4th, 5th, 6th, etc. So 1, 2, 3. Here's the 3rd fret. Okay, and then it said to use your 3rd finger. Okay, and like I said last week, the numbers can get confusing. Do they mean the number 3 with a circle, 3rd fret, or does it mean 3rd finger? Well, the 3rd with the circle is the 3rd finger, and it shows you where it is on the guitar. So 1st string, 3rd fret, using your 3rd finger. Remember, it's 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So we put your ring finger, 1st string, right there. You read the chart. Remember, the X's mean not to touch strings 6, 5, and 4 when you strum it. So you're just strumming on the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st fret. And so you have little circles. Circles, of course, mean open. So the 3rd string will be open, so no fingers are on it. 2nd string will be open, no fingers. But the 1st string has the 3rd finger on the 3rd fret, which you'll learn later that's a certain note, which happens to be G. So anyway, when you strum it, you just kind of go nice, okay? So at the bottom it says my 3rd chord, and as we discussed last week about rhythm, so basically, you tap your foot, and then you count, there's those numbers. Remember, it's in 4/4 time, so basically 4 beats per measure, and then it goes on to the next measure. So it's like 1, 2, ready, go. So like we learned last week, when there's a rest or you want to finish the sound, you just take your right hand and then put pressure on the strings to stop the sound, like this. Okay. Alright? So that's what I want you to play for page 25. 27. Moving on. See what we have here. Rain comes down. Alright, so you have 3 chords. So you had that C, as you can see by the picture. Okay, you play that as it says in the first measure, 1, 2, 3, and then you dampen the strings on the rest. And then you got to switch immediately to the G chord, G modified G. So you go from C, and then you pop down that finger for the G. Now it's important, and as I've taught this class, a lot of people want to use the same finger. Let's don't do that habit. Now some of you will too, and if we ever meet again, I'll see that and I'll pop you on the hand. Just kidding, I won't do that. But just make sure you use different fingers. It just helps play it better, and when we do chords and even tabs later, it's important to be able to use those three fingers separately, okay? So don't get in the bad habit of using the same finger and moving that way. Plus two, you'll have a delay in your sound. So just use your fingers like that, okay? So anyway, we do C for the first measure, and then G, and then you got to do G7, which is that first string, first fret, and you just follow along with the pictures, okay? If you're like confused, the pictures are on each measure to show you where you put your finger in case you forgot, and then you go back to C, which G7 to C is just going up to the second string, first fret. Okay, and in the second line, you stay on C because there's no picture, and in the second measure, you go to that G, modified G, and then you go to G7, and then finally finish with C. So if you do it in rhythm, 1, 2, ready, play. Okay, then to G, G7, okay, then C. Okay, we'll go on the second line, stay on C, okay, then to G, okay, G7, okay, and then the C. Just like that, okay? That one, you should take some time and try to perfect it before you record it, okay? It's a little probably the most difficult at this stage, using 3 different chords, okay? So that's page 27. Going to 28. Just more work on those 3 chords. So merrily we go along, and hopefully you're starting to read it a little better. If you notice at the very end, there's like 2 dots where the double bar is, where it shows you where it's going to be finished. It says to repeat back at the beginning. You don't have to do that for the sake of the video. So just play through it once you master it. Okay. So like I said, it's just like the others. So here's how it will go once you get it down. 1, 2, ready, go. Press G. Back to C. Second line, stay on C. Okay, then to G7. And back to C. Okay, so how many times you should play those notes in a row, you got to keep up with that in your head. Remember what we learned in the last lesson, hashtag 001, is you have to kind of count in your head at the same time while you're playing. So you're multitasking a little bit, and that's why musicians are a little smarter than the rest, because we learn to multitask in our head at the same time. Once we master a lot of things, we do about 4, 5, 6 things at once in an instant. So our brain is functioning at a higher level. Just food for thought there, but you got to keep up. So many times when we start this lesson, people are getting lost because they're not counting while they're playing, and so you kind of have to start getting into the habit of that once you start reading music. Okay. All right. So that's page 28. Page 30 is next. Love somebody. Very important to love everybody, but anyway, love somebody. So you do C, G, C, G7, C, G, C, G7, C. So it's a lot of changes. So it's basically helping you count while you're playing, looking ahead and changing when it's time to change chords. And then, of course, it becomes more frequent on the second line. Okay, so let's talk through it because it's a little difficult. So you go C, 4 beats. Second measure, you go to G. Okay, then back to C. Okay, and then you go to G7. Okay, that should be okay. Second line goes to C, C, and then to G. Okay, and then you notice toward the end there it goes C, C, G7, G7, C, C, C. So you're having to do this. Without getting really confused, as you practice it, you'll realize, oh, okay, I'm just playing C, which is second string, first fret, just lifting the index finger and dropping it to the first string, first fret, for the G7, and then back to C. So, you know. Okay, so playing it all together, here's what it will sound like. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, second line. G. Okay, here's where the tough part is. Just like that, okay? And if you don't perfect it, you know, like this, the fingers get in the way, as long as you're showing me that you understand that you're trying to get it in the right spot, second string, first fret, first string, first fret, that'll be fine, okay? But you don't have to be perfect, not at this stage, okay? So that's page 30. Moving on to page 31 now. All right, so now we're at our final fourth modified, although this one's not modified, this is the actual D7 chord. So now you got 3 fingers that you're using. That's why it's important to practice using the correct fingers in a certain spot. So let's look at that diagram. It looks like a triangle from 1 to 2 to 3, right? So when you shape it, it'll look like that triangle, and you can see the picture. Hopefully you can see it more clear on your page there. Just a second.